We all like a good hot hatch at Evo, and there aren't many come much hotter than the latest Civic Type R from Honda. Yet arguably the most intriguing hot hatch of the moment emanates not from Japan or Europe, but from Korea, and comes in the form of the 271 bhp, £28,000 Hyundai i30N Performance. No, the new hot Hyundai is neither as powerful nor just as torquey as the 316 bhp Civic Type R. It's also 49 kilograms heavier than the Honda, which doesn't bode well for it in terms of lap times. But then again, the i30N has been built by people who really do know what they're doing, and its chassis, we already know, is a peach, aided here by a proper e-diff, which might well come in useful around the notoriously slippy Rockingham National Circuit. Hyundai first then, this is what happened next.
For a car none of us had ever heard of a year or so ago, there's been an awful lot written about the Hyundai i30N, the brainchild of Albert Biermann, who used to run BMW's M division. We know that, we know all about that. We mostly know how good it is. And it is, for first time effort, this thing is blinding. Trouble is, it's absolutely soaking wet today. And if there is one little weak spot that has been shown up with the i30N, it's its outright pace on a track, because although it's got 271 horsepower and it's got the trick e-diff and it's got all sorts of other clever stuff to make it go as fast as possible, it is ultimately a little bit heavy for a hot hatchback. It's quite a lot heavier than the Civic, and the fact that it hasn't got just as much torque and quite a lot less power does not bode well for the i30N's peak performance around a track like this.
So that's what the Hyundai was like around Rockingham National in the wet. But before we got the stopwatches out, I swapped into the Honda for a couple of laps.
It's such a shame it's so wet at Rockingham today. But you cannot do anything about the vagaries of the British weather, I'm afraid. And in a way, as we're going to prove, the fact that it's wet actually plays right into the Civic's hands, because this thing is absolutely epic in the wet. It is so much better than you expect, and so much better than so many other cars that I've driven around this Rockingham circuit, which has a real tendency for being like an ice rink even when it's just wet. So what are we talking about with the Civic? 316 horsepower, a lot less weight than the Hyundai, more torque, more trick bits in terms of aero, obviously a lot more money. It's £5,000–6,000 more expensive, which you can't really underestimate. And it's got a reasonably trick set of Continental tyres on it, but nothing, nothing special, nothing out of the Wizard's laboratory. These are standard off the peg tyres. And look, it's just incredible how you can commit to the throttle, to the brakes, to your entry speeds, to your apex speeds, and then ultimately your exit speeds in this car. I mean, as we'll see in the Hyundai in a bit, no way can you drive it as hard as this thing in the wet. And I suspect that's going to be very obviously reflected in the lap time. I don't know, cars that get developed at the ring, the Nürburgring, tend to be utterly unusable and just really not that great anywhere else other than the Nürburgring, and that's possibly the most surprising thing of all about the Civic Type R, this latest version. It's just such a well-rounded, usable, everyday, very competent, fast, hot hatchback. All right then, come on, let's see just how quick I can get this thing round the Rockingham National Circuit. Our lap starts there.
Even across the start line, the Civic is pulling quite a bit harder than the Hyundai, simply because it has better traction out of the previous hairpin. What you'll also notice as the lap unfolds is how much more curb I could take in the Civic. in the Hyundai, I had to stay well away from the regular dry line through pretty much every corner because there was so little grip, whereas in the Civic I could take a much more aggressive line, a much more traditional dry line if you like. You can also see how much more front end there is in the Civic and how much later I could brake in it, and ultimately how much more committed I could be in it. Through the fast left-hander towards the end of the lap, I had to use the karting line in both because there was so little grip on or near the curb. And as you can see, even though I completely overdid it in the Civic, it was still miles up on the Hyundai at this point. And then into, through and out of the hairpin, it murdered the i30N. So there you go, the frankly brilliant Honda spanked the Hyundai by over 4 seconds in the end, which is a huge difference, given that the Muppet behind the wheel of the Honda also had a moment that cost it at least half a second, if not more. Then again, the Civic Type R is a big event kind of car. It's a phenomenal machine, to be honest. And that's mainly why the Hyundai, good as it is, can't get anywhere near it overall. And for sure, the situation wouldn't have changed at all had the track been bone dry. So for the time being, it's a close but no cigar moment for the Hyundai, and a vaguely astonished round of applause for the sensational Civic Type R.